If I'd have known that I was going to be the center of attention this morning when I got up, I probably wouldn't have come. My name is Rick Green. I'm the president and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce in Pompano Beach. I jokingly refer to anybody who comes and asks, where do you stand politically? My answer is always, when you walk into the Chamber of Commerce offices, you're walking into Switzerland. I don't stand on one side or the other when doing business. And that's how I intend to do this. So, I understand there are some problems. People think this is all up to date. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to pick a question, and I'm going to read it. So anybody who thinks there's something going on, pick a question. Just pick one. Anyone you want. There you go. All right, and there's a lot of these. You voted for the Ryan budget to end Medicare for people in my age group under 55 over 10 years. This is obviously not something Americans want, or even Republicans have been backing off of this unpopular plan. Would you say today that you do not support this plan anymore?
No, I will not, because I think that it is a time for people to have moral courage in the United States of America. I am not ending Medicare. It is going to go from a fee-for-service to a defined contribution. And as I said, if we don't take some type of action, there will not be a Medicare in 13 years from now. So the question that I pose to whoever asks that question is, what is your solution? What would you have done? Would you like to see us continue on an unsustainable path? Or would you like to try to present some type of viable alternative solution? To those people that get nervous and afraid because people yell at them, there's nothing I can do about their courage, but I know what I can do about mine.
Okay, next. No, there's no next. We read the questions, you go on. The Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has projected that by the year 2030, senior citizens will have to bear 68% of the health costs under the Ryan plan versus 25% under the present Medicare plan. How can you justify an almost 200% increase to our future senior citizens while increasing the tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires?
Once again, I will reiterate the fact that in 2024, the Board of Trustees for Medicare and the actuary just said that Medicare runs out. So there will not be any Medicare system past 2024 if we continue with the program that we have. I believe that the best thing that we can possibly do is come up with some other alternative to try to put the patient, put the individual in charge of their health care. What we're talking about is opening it up so that you can have the opportunity to go out there and compete with insurance companies for you and give you the best possible coverage. Now, the thing is this. A lot of times the CEO, probably back in the 1970s, said the Community Reinvestment Act was going to be a good deal. And they said that everyone should have the right to own a home. We see what that got is. So we don't know what could happen if we can allow competition to come into this system. If we can get rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse, which the CEO cannot project at this time right now. So no one can tell us definitively what can happen as far as with this program. But the one thing that we can know definitively is exactly what they said. We don't have the ability to continue and sustain this program as it is, as a mandatory spending program with no controls whatsoever. That's the future Medicare.
All right. Next question. Sir. Small Business Back to Work Act. How long has this been in effect? 1 or 2 years, etc. Has a cost estimate been done? And while assisting small business and trying to relieve unemployment are commendable, I thought the idea was to cut spending, not add to it.
Well, that is true. It is about cutting spending, but it is all about setting conditions and incentivizing people to get get out there and do what needs to be done, which is hire Americans. Now, the GAO sent out a report back in February and March that said there were about $200 billion of wasteful spending programs in Washington, D.C., and yet no one has done anything about it. That's the type of spending that we should be cutting in Washington, D.C. I've had 3 different wasteful programs that I found in the Department of Defense budget. One of them, as I said, $180 million over a 5-year period. The other 2 end up being about another $200 to $300 billion. Those are part of the National Defense Authorization Act. Now, I think that when you look at what we have to do for our small businesses, if we don't set an environment where they can grow, they're not going to be able to grow. And I think that that's what this bill does. This bill was just given this number and brought forth. I dropped it on the Friday before the Easter recess. As you see, it has bipartisan support. It has support across many different chambers of commerce and small business advocacy groups all across the country. And so this was something that I worked with in conjunction with the Small Business Administration, in conjunction with the National Federation of Independent Businesses and others. And they thought that this was a good idea to bring forth to help alleviate the problem of small businesses being able to hire Americans. It has not been scored by the CEO nor the Joint Committee on Taxation, which is one of the things that I brought forth. And we'll see what happens when we do get the final numbers. And I look forward to making it to the House.
All right. And the ma'am, the lady over there who said, oops, I'll get those in a second, who I told, I thought this was just ask questions. I didn't think it was a respond and answer, and so that's the way I'm going with it, if that's all right. If you want me to change, I'll be happy to do so, sir. Tell you who has a question. Okay. This is more of a statement or question. Energy independence. What's your thoughts on energy independence?
Well, energy independence means the development of the full spectrum resources of the United States of America. That means the oil, the natural gas. I believe in the Pickens plan that says every mass transit vehicle or truck in the United States of America should be operating on natural gas. It is coal, it is nuclear, it is biofuels, it is the renewables, it's hydrogen, everything that we can possibly develop. There are many different companies down here in South Florida that are trying to develop the next generation of energy technologies. There's one right here in Pompano Beach that is developing the next generation of steam engine technology. So we need to be once again looking at small business incentive programs and technology grants that we can give to them that help them to grow. But the most important thing, we have to stop sending the American taxpayer dollars to people such as OPEC, which is nothing but despots, dictators, theocrats, and autocrats that want to see this country destroyed. It's a national security issue. It is an economic issue. It is a jobs issue, and we have to do something about it.
What is your opinion regarding deporting Muslims who are caught? And that said, see the Sunday Sun Sentinel front page.
Well, I got to tell you, one of the things that really does concern me is that it was only 10 years ago that Muhammad Atta, 5 or 6 of the co-conspirators of 9/11 were residing right here in Broward County, took their flight training down in Opelika, bought their tickets in Lauderdale by the Sea. And here we are 10 years later, and we still have a very determined and a very vicious enemy that's still living in and amongst us. I think that once you are found and convicted of certain crimes, you should be deported out of the United States of America if you are deported. And one of the problems that we have in this country is that political correctness will end up killing us. One of the things that really concerns me is a lot of colleagues up on Capitol Hill believe that since we killed Osama bin Laden, that everything is over. It's far from over. And so we have really got to be focused on the fact that I hear a lot of people saying we cut the head off a snake. What happened is that you're dealing with a multi-headed hydra. And some of the heads on this hydra can regenerate itself. So we have to be even more vigilant, even more resolute But I will tell you this, having been overseas into those combat zones, I think we've been fighting the wrong way. I think that the most important thing is to get away from nation building and occupation style warfare. Because that does erode your economic resources. The greatest asset the United States military has is its strategic mobility. And, if people believe that the way that the United States military should be, 10 to 12 man groups like Navy SEALs and Special Forces running around all over the world, that's not the way either. What we have to do is look at how do we build up our maritime forces? How do we launch our forces from over the horizon? How do we develop our forces in an airborne, aerosol type of forces? It's not about having large tank formations anymore. And I think, as I shared last night at Riviera Beach, we need to have people that are on our services committee or at the strategic level that can look at the defense military industry and tell them that they are not there to develop weapon systems for themselves. We need to make sure that the warfighter is telling them what they need to have on the battlefield to be successful. And that's the type of shift in paradigm that we need to have.
Do you plan to vote against raising the debt limit?
Well, I'll go back to what I said up there. If you look at polls all across the United States of America, the highest I've ever seen is 27% supporting just cleanly raising the debt limit. If we can't show that we are going to be fiscally responsible, if you raise the debt limit, that just kicks a bad can down the road. As I said, there are 4 conditions that I'm talking about if you want my vote to raise the debt limit. And once again, if we don't make the federal government, we don't make Washington, D.C. responsible, then we're just going to continue to have this occur again and again and again. There was recently a guy named Grover Norquist who made the recommendation that we should raise the debt ceiling every 2 months. Just absolutely one of the most asinine things that I've heard. Now is the time to try to get the fiscal house of the federal government in order. And if this window of opportunity blows by, it'll never pass me. It'll never come back to us.
So what do you think prices would get that gas station if you let the gas
Okay, here's one. Why are you so focused on abortion rights when you were voted in to deal with jobs and the economy?
I think one of the things, if you go back and you look at the fact, the vote that I had against Planned Parenthood, that's $352 million of American taxpayer dollars that are going to a $1 billion not-for-profit organization. And it's a $1 billion not-for-profit organization that over the past 2 or 3 years has had $110 million to $120 million of profit. So I think that we can find a better place to spend the American taxpayer dollars than in Planned Parenthood.
Okay, when is Congress going to ban asbestos in the USA and fund, where's Larry Davis? What's this word, Larry? Thank you, cancer research.
Well, I'll take that back up there. One of the things that I stood against is the Chinese drywall, which I think is also a health concern. But that's one of the things I'll go back and I'll look at us getting, banning asbestos. But I got to tell you right now, debt limit, that's a pretty big emphasis of getting Americans back to work. I've just been there 5 months or so, I'll do my best.
vote for the GOP Paul Rand budget, and was there anything you disagreed with?
Well, I think one of the things that I looked at with the Paul Ryan budget is that it did talk about some of the hard decisions we have to make, decisions that a lot of people did not want to confront. So I believe that we have to be truthful and honest, and we have to understand we got to tackle the mandatory spending. And I think that the other thing that Paul Ryan budget does attempt to do is, without an exorbitant rise in taxes and without really taxing our seniors, to try to get this federal budget balanced in some years. Now, it's going to take, based upon this 20, I believe, to 23 years to have that done. But we got to try to do something. And so that's why I voted for that budget.
We have over 70 questions, so I'm going to try to pick up the pace a little bit, sir.
Not a problem. I'm here to.
Why is Speaker Boehner conceding to the debt limit increase?
Well, I got to tell you, my name is Alan West, so you got to ask Speaker Boehner. You got to try to, you can call up the Speaker's office and you can ask him that, but all I can do is stand upon my own convictions.
You did well. It was the same question, basically. Please discuss if the House will deal with the IRS and sending money to identity thieves. According to a recent Channel 4 report, the IRS is throwing billions of our dollars away.
That is one of the letters that I know came up to us. This concern about identity thieves being able to get into people's income tax returns and getting their tax returns, and that's a serious thing we have to contend with. So that is something that we're going to be looking at, because that may bubble up after this tax season. And we need to have better penalties on these identity thieves. I just think that's one of the key things.
America needs leadership, not politicians. Who do you see beside yourself as a new American leader?
There are some people in here that wouldn't conceive me as a new American leader. So, look, I don't sit up here and make assessments on other people's character or their abilities. All I can do is, at the end of the day, I have one promise to each and every one of you. When I look at myself in the mirror, there are three things that I will still have. That is my honor, that is my character, and that is my integrity. People can disagree with me on issues all you want. But one thing you will know, I will not lie to you, and I will fight doggedly to do the exact same thing I did in uniform, was to protect your life, to protect your liberty, and protect your pursuit of happiness to the utmost.
Mike Dorsiewicz, all right, I want to make sure I get this right, because it's kind of, regarding patient participation in TRICARE, will premium increases be limited to COLA and
I know exactly
something working?
I know exactly where you're going. On the Military Personnel Subcommittee, doing the markup of the National Defense Authorization Act, we made the recommendation that there should not be any TRICARE fee increases, and it should be indexed to cost of living allowances. When it did get to the full House Committee, the Armed Services Committee, the chairman, it made the decision that there will be, in the first year, a 13% increase, which amounts to about $5 a month to TRICARE. But after that, it will be indexed to the cost of living allowances. I still would say that there should not be an increase in TRICARE fees. There are some other places where we can find savings in the military health care system, but at least we're going to index it to cost of living allowances.
What are you doing to prevent don't ask, don't tell from being repealed?
I'm not doing anything to prevent don't ask, don't tell. The thing that I'm doing is look, the decision has been made, and the military has saluted the flag and they're going to execute. Now, one of the amendments that came up during the markup was that we felt that it was important for the service chiefs to be the ones that report back that these programs have been implemented in, and that there is no disruption to the training and the preparation or for units that are deployed in combat. Some people did not understand that, so I had to explain to them that it's the service chief's responsibility to provide trained and ready and equipped forces to the combatant commanders. So that's the only thing. Let's see what happens. I can tell you that having been a commander in the United States military, I would not have supported changing that don't ask, don't tell. But now it has been done. I will sit back and wait to see what happens. But also remember that I do have a lot of friends, to include a nephew, that is in the military, and I do hear some of their concerns. So I'll make my assessment after I see how far down the road we go.
Given that Republicans have voted a budget that will increase the national debt by $5 to $6 trillion over the next 10 years, how do you justify blackmailing the country now about voting to raise the debt ceiling?
Well, I'm not blackmailing the country. I think that this is an opportunity for us to give fiscal responsibility in our country. And you're right. I mean, there is, as you saw in the slide, there is going to still be an increase. But then there's going to be a very decisive decrease. There's going to be an incredible split between where the current budget that is being proposed coming out of the White House and the budget that Paul Ryan is proposing. So I think that is what I'm looking at into the out years. And let me tell you one of the problems I think with the American electorate and the American electoral system. Everybody likes everything to happen like right now. Everyone deals with sound bites. Everyone likes the sound bite mentality. But if we don't start thinking about what is going to happen 20 years, 30 years down the road, if we don't start developing policies to set us up for success further down the road, then you find out what happens in 2008 when you bring forth a piece of legislation that sounds real good in 1978. Then 30 years later, it crashes your financial system because all of a sudden you put the government into the mortgage industry. So I think that's one of the key things we have to start doing. It's not just looking in the near term for 2 to 3 or 4 years. We got to start looking out. And that's why other countries are kicking us in the butt. I don't want to see the United States of America about 10 to 15 years from now having to continue some of the things you saw happen in Greece, in Portugal, in Italy, in Ireland, and in Spain.
If monthly Medicare premiums are only about $100, but a doctor's office visit is at least $200 with $10,000 going on Medicare each day, how can we keep from going bankrupt with the current system?
Well, I think that's what the trustees said. And if we continue on right now, we are going to run the system bankrupt. And another thing, like I said, once again, we've got to do something as far as this catastrophic litigation. So the doctors are practicing defensive medicine. So that when you go in, you don't have to have 10 different tests be performed on you when you probably only need 2 or 3. But they're so concerned about the litigation that be brought against them. That is one of the key contributors to the rising cost of living.
What is your vision for the million of children in South Florida who rely on access to public education who will never be able to afford private school even with a so-called voucher system?
Well, I think there are some things that we need to do with education. If you all don't know, when I first retired from my military service, I taught high school at Deerfield Beach for a year. We've got some problems with the education system in the United States of America because we are not teaching critical thinking skills. We are teaching just basically robots. I don't really support the MCAT program, the MCAT system. I don't think that